Morning. So there might be a small number of you, or maybe just one of you out there, but anyway, if you managed to make it to the live stream, good morning and welcome. Thanks for being here. Morning, that one kid. Nice to see you here this morning. I know this 8 o'clock thing is not the best for everybody. I'm about to go through a string of days myself where I'm not getting as much sleep as I'd like to. So that's probably the case for a lot of you guys as well. All right, we're in week 6. So after this week, we're more or less at a third of the way through the semester. So now we're really starting to move along, which feels good. So nothing new or unusual. I'll just kind of do the normal thing today. I will remind you, let me make sure you can see what I see. Yeah, so the midterm is coming up. It is the week of October 17th. So that week there is no normal content. I do the live stream, but it is review of the first 8 weeks, just to remind you of what the material that will be covered on the midterm exam, and then you have the whole week to work on it. So please start planning accordingly so that you have time to work through a more extensive set of questions that week for the midterm exam. There will be a review on Monday, October 17th, and then the only thing that you'll do that week is the midterm itself. Oh, hi Rich, nice to see you. Hope things are going well. Okay, so midterm coming up, everybody, just a heads up about that. And otherwise, I'm going to kind of just look through this week's materials, and then I'm going to bring up a virtual machine and talk about the things that we want to talk about this week. So Apologies in advance for those of you who don't like VI. Most people don't until they get comfortable with it. But more VI, and the goal is that you may not like it. I mean, you may not ever feel perfectly comfortable with it, although I hope that you do. But still, you can sit down with no graphical user interface on any Linux or Unix system and do productive work. That's the goal. So this week we're going to add redirection, which are operators in the shell that allow us to take the output of commands and send them other places as opposed to the screen. We'll add a few more text tools at the command line to experiment with. And of course, as always, we'll look at the man pages for all those things and experiment with some of the options of these various tools. And then we'll add a few more commands to our VI/Vim toolkit so that we can do just a few more things, give us a little bit more power in terms of editing text at the command line. So a few more readings than normal this week. That's just to kind of pick up the bits and pieces that I want to pick up this week. So none of them is a super long reading, and as always, those readings are there and are where I draw the questions from. So it's whatever you found is successful for you. If it were me, I would probably go and kind of do a quick read through them and then have them all open when I went to work through the questions. That's probably what I would do. Lab as always, and I'm going to pop open the hands-on experiments from the lab, which I'll just kind of remind you this every week. These hands-on experiments attached to the lab are there so that you can spend more time thinking about the commands you want to learn how to use and less time thinking about creating some fake information to do your experiments with. So that's a big part of what the hands-on experiments are for, is to give you sort of the toy information that you can run experiments on. I'm going to use it like I will every week during the live stream today. Discussion as always. So this week we'll go out and kind of find some devices or some places where Linux is used, and hopefully we can find some interesting and possibly even unexpected places where Linux is actually out there in the world running on systems or devices that we might not have thought about. And then the reminders page. So lab and discussion as always, and then I'm starting to bother you about the midterm because that's a much larger assignment than normal. I think it's 50 questions. You have all week to do it. You don't have unlimited tries on it. So it's something that you want to prepare for, be prepared for. It's open notes because we're online. But it's larger than a normal lab, so you want to make sure that you've left yourself the time to deal with it. We will review for it on Monday, October 17th, and then you'll have the remainder of the week, and it will be due on Sunday at midnight, like all assignments are. In that week of October 17th, there is no discussion and there is no lab. And then the distribution project, just something to start thinking about. For those of you who are using VirtualBox like I do, you won't have to make any adjustments to it. Just do the project as written, and you'll be good to go. If you are one of the Mac users who is on an M1 Mac, then you probably will want to confer with me about how to go about doing that project, because it's probably safer for those of you on the M1 Mac to use the UTM gallery as opposed to doing a raw install for yourself. So you'll still do pretty much all of the same work. You'll do all of the same research, all of the same reporting, all of the same experimentation inside of the running system, but you'll have to miss out on the part where you actually do the raw installation for yourself. Okay, so that's where we are at here in week number 6. So let me switch to my virtual machine. And oh wait, let me switch back. Sorry, I hope I don't make anybody seasick. So you're not going to see this part, but I will be using these hands-on experiments and reproducing these files inside of my virtual machine. So why reinvent the wheel? I already took the time to kind of think up these examples, so I'm just going to use them myself. For you guys, I hope that you are taking the opportunity to use these files, this information I've given you to practice with the eye a little bit. None of them is super hard to type in, but every new file that you create and add stuff to and edit and save, those are all good practice in VI. So we have week 6A, week 6B. They are similar on purpose because we're going to use them in association with some commands. We have the shopping.txt file, and notice that every line has 3 fields, as it were. The name of an item, the category of an item, and the quantity of an item. And we're using that because that configuration lets us play around with, in particular, the cut command, which you'll see reference here at the bottom. So anyway, I will be able to see these. You won't, because I'm going to switch over to my VM, but I'm going to be using them and typing them into my VM. And I hope that you take it as encouragement that if I'm willing to take time out of my life to do it, that you consider doing the same. Okay. I'm always worried at this moment that I'm going to forget how to get into my system. All right, so all is good. Before we do that, and I forgot to check if you see what I see. You don't. Good thing. I checked. Okay, so I have logged into my VM. And before we do the week 6A, week 6B shopping files, I want to talk about redirection, and then we're going to reuse these to a certain extent later down the agenda. So the first item on the agenda is redirection and pipes. We're going to experiment with 2 of the several redirection operators. Well, I guess you could call the pipe a form of redirection, but the greater than and the double greater thans, or some people might say the alligator and the double alligators, or however you refer to these things. Those 2 things on line 9 is the first thing we're going to experiment with. They are called redirection operators on the shell. And what they let us do is take the output of a command and redirect it somewhere where it wouldn't normally go. And we'll just do a simple example to start. So if I run the date command and I press enter, by default, the output is printed to the screen. But I can use a redirection operator to redirect the output, not away from the screen and to another location. And for now, I'm just going to say that I'm going to redirect the output of the date command into a file called today.txt. In fact, let me go adjust the agenda because we have not talked about... Oh yeah, cat's in there. Never mind. I got it. All right, so I'm going to press enter. So date didn't output anything to the screen, and the reason is because I redirected it to a file called today.txt. How can I prove that? Well, I can go look at today.txt. I can open it up with Vim if I want. And I can see, oh, that's where the output of the date command went, is into that file. Okay, good question, that one. So that one kid asks, does the file today.txt have to exist? Good question. So the answer is no. The file today.txt does not have to exist. So if you redirect to a non-existent file, then the shell will create it for you. So there's all of my files. Let's make a week 6 folder, and then we can have a clean space to work in. So let me make a week 6. I'll just remind you that I'm in my home directory. You can also see that at the prompt with the little, the tilde, the squiggle. So let's make a week 6 folder. and go into there, and then we will have less clutter to deal with. All right, so I'm in week 6, and let me do that all over again. So I'm in week 6, and it is empty. So that one kid asked in chat, if I redirect to a non-existent file, do I have to create the file first, or what happens? So there is no file. So the answer to that is that if you redirect to a non-existent file, the shell will create it. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and snatch one of the commands from line 13 to make this go a little bit more faster and more efficient for us. So you'll see the cat command down there. The cat command is short for concatenate, and that's not a very descriptive word for what happens, but the person who many decades ago created the cat command wanted to concatenate the contents of a file to the screen. Anyway, it's a bad name. What cat does is it just dumps the contents of a file to the screen. If it's a very long file, it dumps the whole file and it just kind of races past you on the screen. So cat is kind of a not user-friendly version of less command. Do you remember the less command or the more command? They will let you scroll up and down a large file, a screen full at a time. So less and more are user-friendly versions of cat. The cat command will just dump the whole file at once. But the nice thing about cat is for a very small file, like today.txt, it'll just dump the contents of the file so I can quickly see what's in there. So cat is good for small files. It's bad, in my opinion, for very large files if you need to view the contents of a file. But for viewing the contents of a small file, the cat command is quite nice. I didn't use the man page because I think the man page for cat might actually make life more confusing. You just type cat space the name of the file and it dumps the entire contents on the screen. Okay, so the redirect operator here, date space greater than space today.txt. Today.txt didn't exist when I ran that command, and the redirect operator, the shell, created the file for us. And then I used the cat command to view the contents, which show us that, in fact, today.txt has the output of the date command in it. Okay, so we have today.txt. I'm going to remove it and just do that one more time just to prove it. So now there's no files there, and if I do date today.txt and then do a listing, I'll see, okay, yes, it's true. The redirect operator does create the file. And if I use the cat command to quickly see its contents, I'll see, okay, that looks right. That looks like the output of the date command. Okay, so let's run it again on a currently existing file and see what happens. So you can see when I cat today.txt, so I'm going to use my up arrow, up 1, up 2, up 3. I'm going to recall that command, and I'm going to rerun it and then see what the insides of today look like. So I'm going to up 1, up 2 gets me back to the cat command. And then if I inspect the two, the first one was at 8:15 and 26 seconds, and the second one was at 8:16 and 5 seconds. So this redirect operator, the single greater than, if the file does exist, will overwrite the file. So the single greater than creates the file with the output if it's not already there, and overwrites it with the output if it is already there. Okay, so that's the greater than command. It's a handy way. Well, we'll see bigger examples at some point down the road, but it's a handy way of doing things like capturing just a quick history of your current setup. So you could take the ls command as an example, and current files.txt. So you could capture a quick history of your files by redirecting the output of the ls command into a file. And that's the cat of it, which shows itself plus today.txt. So we'll see some applications here, but I do end up using this command myself on occasion. All right, so that's the single greater than. What about the double greater than? I'm going to remove current files. Get us back to that. In fact, let's remove today also. So now there's nothing here. And now let's try the double greater thans. Okay, so one thing that I notice immediately is that the double greater thans appear to create a file also if a file doesn't already exist. And if I use the cat command, then I'll notice that it looks pretty much the same as I would have expected from the single greater than. It has the output of the date command in it. So what's the difference? Well, let's try to run the date. I just use the up arrow keys to cycle back to the date command. Let's run it again and then see what happens if I cat that out again. Okay, so this is the difference between the single greater than and the double greater than. Both of them will create a file if the file doesn't exist. So they're both the same in that respect. The single greater than will overwrite the file if it does exist. The double greater than will append to the file if it already exists. And this can be handy because you can build up a file by appending the output of multiple commands in it. Let's just do a quick example of that. So clear the screen. So I have today.txt. So let's say I want to do a listing command with the files that are in here. So current files.txt. And if I cat that out, then I will see that it actually created current files before the listing actually happened, because the file current files.txt has itself in it. But now what if I wanted to append a timestamp to that file, so that when I come back later, I could see what day and time I had actually created this listing. Well, I can use the date command and simply append the date to the bottom of that current files.txt. And now I have the listing and also the output of the date command. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Now, what if we wanted it to look a little bit prettier? Then we could do something like this. So we have the current files. So let's overwrite it this time. So if we put the date line on top of it, notice I use the single greater than, which means it's going to be overwritten. Okay, that's good. But let's say I wanted to have a little bit of formatting in here. So I want to have a timestamp at the top and then maybe something to separate the timestamp from the listing of files. Well, I could echo, and let's just put some equal signs in there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can use this echo command, which normally would just print things to the screen, but I could append that stuff to the bottom of current files.txt. So I redirected the echo, which normally would print to the screen, to be appended to current files. So if I cat that out now, I can see the date command, and then appended to that is the little separator with the equal signs. And then finally, I will append to that the listing. And now I have sort of a nice little formatted file that's a record of my files at a particular date and time. So those are the easy ones. Redirection is usually easier for people to understand than the thing that follows. And we're going to wait on the pipe until we get some places that we can use it. So we will come back to the pipe, but what we call the pipe is the vertical bar. On your keyboard, it's above the enter key with the backslash on it. So to get a pipe, you'd have to hold the shift key down and press that key. There's a pipe. But let's get that in the mix here in just a moment. Okay, so now we're going to need some content. So I'm going to start doing some editing here and creating these experiments files, week 6A, week 6B, and so on. So you won't see me switch back over, but I have them on my screen out of your view, just because it'd be too much on the screen at once. So I'm going to create these files if I can get things arranged where I can create these files. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through and create the 3 files from the hands-on experiments, and then we will use these other commands. So I'm using Vim. If you don't have Vim, you won't need it for a while, although at a point we do have a lab that requires that you have Vim installed. So if you don't have Vim, I worked through installing that in week 5 lecture. So unfortunately, that's what I would tell you is go watch the week 5 lecture. At some point, you're going to need to install Vim. So I'm going to use Vim because I installed it last week, and it is slightly more user-friendly, although not a lot, but enough that it's worth the trouble. Except for I don't know why I did that. I just typed Vim with no file name, which is fine, but I'm going to quit, :Q. And I'm going to run Vim on week 6a.txt, and then I'm going to create this stuff that's in the hands-on experiment. So strawberries, apples. You can see Vim's slightly nicer arrangement. So it tells me I'm in insert mode by default. It tells me what line number and column number I'm on at the bottom as well. And it also tells me if I'm in a very large file, roughly how far down into the file I am, or how much of the file I'm seeing on the screen. Apples, peaches, peaches, oranges, grapes, kiwis, blueberries. I don't know why I'm reading it out loud, because I am. Tangerines. All right, there is week 6a.txt. So I hit escape to get into command mode, and then :WQ to write and quit. And you can see at the bottom of the screen week 6a written. I will do week 6b now. So this is very similar, and the reason why they are similar is because we want to use them with sorting and uniquing commands. Escape, :WQ. So that's with the week 6b file from the hands-on experiments, and then the slightly more troublesome one, although still not too bad. Shopping, txt. So I'm just going to be careful here that I get the spaces in correctly, because if I don't, then the experiments won't work as intended. So apples, space, fruit, space, 2. The second line, the item is eggs, space, dairy, space, 12. Third line, Cheerios, space, cereal, space, 1. Soda, space, beverage, space, 24. Milk, space, dairy, space, 1. Bananas, space, fruit, space, 4. It's like a shopping list, right? Every line is an item, the category or the section of the store where it would come from, and then the quantity of items of that type wanted. Tuna, canned items, 2 of those, tomatoes, canned items, 1 of those, squash, vegetable, 6 of those, and then finally carrots, vegetable, 12 of those. All right, so there's shopping.txt as presented to me in the hands-on experiments for this week. Hit escape to get in command mode, and then :WQ to write and quit. So when it's all said and done, I have the other files I was playing around with. So current files that I did, today.txt that I did with the redirection operators, and then finally week 6A, week 6B, and shopping for what comes next. So we've done one of these. We haven't done all of these. So I get my agenda up where I can see it. Sort, unique, translate, and cut. Okay, so let's just go through these commands and see what they feel like, and then we'll bring in the pipes to compose more complex commands by stringing things together. So let's remind ourselves what sort does with the manual page. So sort lines of text files. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to page down and see if there's anything interesting. Ignore case could come in handy, although in this week's exercises, I typed everything in all lowercase. There's reverse sorting, there's random sorting, which is kind of like a shuffle. Compress files, key. Okay, so that key thing could be handy to us. Just sort of a hint. Getting down way deeper into the options, the key could be interesting to use. So I'm sure going to try that out, because you'll see when we try to short the shopping list that it doesn't necessarily do exactly what I want. Gives location and type. Okay, key def, and we'll just kind of F is a field number, and C a character position in the field. Okay, so anyway, yeah, just heads up. Oops. We are going to, we tried last week reverse, and we tried random sorting, which is like a shuffle. And then we're going to add, if we go further down the sort page, we're going to add, there it is, kind of top third of the screen, the -K option, which lets us sort on a specific key or field. So we'll try a few of these out and just see how it works. We're going to try it on all of the files we just created for this week. So we're going to compare the sort output with the cat output. And remember, cat is just going to quickly dump the contents of a file to the screen. So if I cat week6a.txt, I can see pretty obviously that it's not in alphabetical order. So I'm betting that sort week6a.txt will sort it in alphabetical order. So that's good. I'm going to use the up arrow to recall that most recent command, and then I'm going to use the left arrow key to go back and insert the -R option, which should reverse the sort. Okay, all good. Notice, by the way, that the sort command prints to the screen. So what if I wanted to save? What if I wanted to sort? I'm just using the up. What if I wanted to sort and save the file, the sorted version of the file? Well, I would simply redirect it. So I could say week 6a and probably just keep a separate copy of it that's been sorted. So I'll just redirect the sort output away from the screen to a file that I have actually changed the name of, so that I know if I cat week6a.txt, that's going to be the original. And if I cat week6a sorted.txt, then that's going to be the sorted one. So there I managed to use the redirect operator to keep a new alphabetized version of that week 6a list. All right, so let's cat out week 6b. That one also does not appear to be alphabetized, so we're just doing these experiments to get a feel for how the sort command works. All right, that's a good thing. Pardon me. The names are sorted, so that's good. I could, once again, if I wanted to, well, why not? I'll just do it. I could redirect the sort command on that file to a new file called week 6b sorted. And then I have the original unsorted version and the sorted versions both. So use the redirection operator to achieve that. All right, so now the weird one. So let's cat the shopping list. And let's see what sorting does to it. Okay. Yeah, so it does what we would expect, is that they are alphabetized. But what if we wanted to sort it by the numbers, by the quantities of things, instead of the first thing, which is their names? So sort has an option which allows you to specify a key field for the sorting. So the way the key field works is, at least by default, this should work for us, I think. If you have a file like this shopping file and you have a bunch of lines that have the same number of elements or fields on each line, then you can actually sort by the fields as long as all the lines are the same. So field number 1 is the names. So if I sort by keying on the first field, hopefully this works, that should be the names. So that doesn't change anything. So it turns out that the default is to sort by that first field. Now the second field, I use the up arrow key and then the left arrow key to go edit this. The second field is the category field. So let's see what happens if I say to sort, don't use that first field, which is the name of the item on every line. Use the second field, separated by the space, which is the category, and sort on that field instead. And let's see if it works. It did work. So now the first line of the output is beverage, the second field, followed by canned, the second field, cereal, the second field, dairy, dairy, fruit, fruit, vegetable, vegetable. Kind of cool. So let's do let me cat it out first. All right, so there's the original. Let's sort on the third field, which should be the numbers, right? So the third element or field on every line is that number. So let's see what happens if we sort on that number. Oh, thank you, Pandey. I appreciate it. So if we're sorting on the third field, something looks almost right about it, but not quite right about it. So if we sort on the third field, we get 1, 1, 1, and then a 12, and then a 12, and then 2, 2, 24, 4, and 6. So in a way, they're alphabetized around the digits, but they're not in actual numerical form, increasing in numerical form. So it should say 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 12, 12. Yes, so we do set and awk later in the semester, yes. So someone's asking, do we do set and awk in the class? And we do that in several weeks from now. It's toward the end of our semester, which will be sometime in November, that we'll do that. Yes, so that one kid asked in chat, if we had some uppercase letters in the mix, how would it sort? And the uppercase letters would sort by their ASCII values. You are correct. So sometimes that's desirable and sometimes not. So let's kill two birds with one stone, that one kid. So the field number 3 sorting, not really working numerically, although it does seem to be working kind of by ordering the digits. 1, 1, 1, and then a 1, 2, and then a 1, 2, and then 2, 2, and then a 2, 4. And then, so let's go see if we can get those to sort numerically, and then we'll also deal with the question of what happens if we have capital letters in the mix. In fact, maybe I'll just make a new file and let's see what happens. I'll just call this one test.txt. And then I will do apples, oranges, bananas, and then I'm going to capitalize those things. So this is a question asked in chat. So if we have these capitalized ones and the lower letter ones, what does sort do with those? And the question is, are these going to be sorted in their ASCII order? And the answer is yes, they will. If you don't know what ASCII, ASCII is, it is a system that associates numerical values with the letters on your keyboard. So technically, when a big A appears on the screen, there's a numerical value that the computer is associating with it. So what that one kid is asking is sort going to actually use that hidden numerical value? And the answer is yes. So let's do it though. So we will sort on, well, let's cat it first. So cat test, this is our little extra test. So apples, oranges, bananas, all small letters, and then capitalize apples, oranges, bananas. And let's see how it sorts. So it appears that the little a comes before the big A, but the big A comes before the little b, and so on. Yeah, so hopefully that helps a little bit to answer that question. But let's, I didn't get exactly what I was hoping to get. But anyway, that's probably good enough for that. So yes. Let's go back to, so what we were doing is we were sorting by the third field. And we were noticing that the third field is sorted, but not actually numerically. More like it's ordering the digits kind of alphabetically. The reason for this, by the way, is related to what that one kid asked. So sort is actually sorting these third fields by the underlying numerical code that's associated with these characters on the screen. So it turns out that the character 1 being printed on the screen has a numerical code in the computer that's not 1. So it's sorting that way. So let's see if we can override that behavior and get the numerical values to sort. So I'm going to use the man page, and I'm going to just look for something that says something about numeric. So we have the -G here coming up just above the middle of the screen. It says general numeric sort. Maybe that's something to try. There is a -H just below that that says human numeric sort. We have a -N, which is numeric sort, which sounds more straightforward to me, but maybe we'll try the others and see what they do. That might answer our question. Let's see if there's anything else that says something about numbers or numeric. Debug files, key, merge, output, stable, buffer, field, temporary, unique, 0. Okay, so we have -G, -H, and -N to try. Although the -N one seems the most direct. So here's the original. Here is sorting on the third field, but apparently not actually numerically like we might want. So let's see if we throw in a -G in here, if something different happens. Okay, that worked. You'll notice the numbers now go 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 12, 12, 24. So the -G worked. I wonder if the -H works. The -H also worked. And then finally, let's try the -N, which also worked as expected. So any three of those options looks like it will sort numerically as opposed to the underlying computer code sorting, which we often think of as alphabetical, although inside a computer, it's less the alphabetical order of things than the sort of hidden numeric code of the characters on the screen. All right, so there is a whole bunch of different looks at sort, and that was pretty fun, I thought, actually. To sort by all those different fields. Okay, so there's a sort. Let's try the next command, which is unique. So I'm going to use the man page on it first. So report or omit repeated lines. So filter adjacent matching lines from the input. With no options, matching line. So this is important that it will only filter adjacent lines that are duplicates of each other. And what that means is that the lines have to be literally right next to each other. They can't be separated by other lines. So this unique will work if the lines are grouped all together. So we'll see, pardon me, how that works in just a bit. Let's see if there's any options that might be useful to us. Well, we have the dash capital D option. Let's see, one for each group. Only print duplicate lines, one for each. So we have the little d, the big D, to sort of see what those might do. The little d, print duplicate lines, one for each group. The big D is print all duplicate lines. We'll try it. We also have the dash I option to ignore case. So if we are not worried about capital and lowercase letters, but literally just if the words as we read them match are duplicates of each other. We have the dash U option, which is only the unique stuff. Okay, so we'll remind ourselves the purpose of the unique command is to report or admit repeated lines. So this feels kind of weird because unique seems like it would report the unique lines. But unique's job is actually to deal with lines of input that are repeated. So let's get a file. So I believe week 6a.txt. Oh, you know what we could do? We could do our test file for this. Yeah, we could do our test file for this. So let's just try it and see if anything happens on this file. Nothing. Okay. Now it did tell me adjacent, and now we get to try something out. So if we want the words apple together, we know that we could get that by sorting the file. And now we have the word apple and apples adjacent to each other, which is what the unique command wanted. It wants the potential duplications adjacent to each other, which means stacked on top of each other, and sort gives us that. So what we want to be able to do is sort the file and then use unique on it. So one way we could do that is we could say sort test.txt and then redirect to make a sorted version of that same file. And then we could start to do our experiment on the sorted file. Now, unique in this case still leaves what appear to be duplicate lines, but I remember from the man page that there was an option to make it case insensitive. So what if I do the dash I option and say I want to do this case insensitive? Now all of a sudden you can see that the duplicates, the second time the word apples appears in a case insensitive way, it's removed from the output. So when you read the man page for unique, it seems to be a little bit backwards. Like it's showing me the repeated lines. How does that mean anything unique? But it turns out that ultimately the goal of the unique command is to show me only the unique lines, if that makes sense. So unique is going, as long as the file has been sorted, then unique will remove the duplicates, offering me only the unique lines as its output. So that's one approach, is to sort it, redirect it to a file, and then use unique on the sorted file. But we can actually eliminate that file in the middle of this equation with pipes. So here's where pipes come in, the vertical bar. So what we can actually do is we can sort test.txt, and then we can use a vertical bar. And it's kind of a redirection, but it doesn't go to a file. So what we're saying here is I want the output of the sort command to be what unique-i is applied to. So I'm piping the output of sort into the command unique-i. And this is a way to compose commands. So I sort of just think that I can string a series of commands together with this pipe operator. So sort.test.txt, instead of redirecting it to a file or allowing it to print on the screen, what I do instead is I pipe it into a command that follows it, which in this case is unique-i. So unique-i gets as its data to work on, its input data, the output of sort test.txt, which is pretty slick, I think. All right, so we'll try that again. So let's, I think week 6A probably was set up to be this. Let's see if there's any, well, let's sort it. Yeah, so I can see a duplicate just looking at it this way, which is peaches. So when I'm talking about composing commands, the way I tend to do this is I do each sort of separate part of the command by itself until I figure out kind of the sequence that I want. So this, if I sort this file and then make that the input to unique, it should remove that duplicate peaches from there. So I'm going to recall the sort command, and then I'm going to use the pipe to connect up that sorted file to the unique command. Since everything's already in all lowercase, I don't need to be case insensitive. And I will notice that the duplicate peaches has been removed. So peach is only the one unique single entry, and then all the others are retained because they were already not duplicated. So I think the unique command is kind of cool. But it also wants its data to be sorted because it can only, unique can only deal with duplicate lines when they are resting on top of each other. So you need sort working in concert with unique to get the duplicate data removed, which is where pipes can come in, of course. Okay, so yeah, another command. So now the translate command. So the translate command, it's an interesting command, but basically you use it as a simple kind of find and replace. At least the way we're going to use it is we're going to use the translate command as a simple find and replace on individual characters. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. And let's see if any of the options are going to be interesting to us. Nope. There is one trick about the translate command. It doesn't by default appear to accept any files as its inputs. So where does it get the stuff that it translates from? And it says it does it from standard input and writes to standard output. So the translate command actually out of the box has to, it's kind of made to be used with the pipe. So we need to pipe things into it and translate them. So let's try it. And then I'll explain to you what the sets mean. And then notice, so if you look up under synopsis, it'll say TR options. So the options would be -C, -D, -S, -T. We're not going to bother with any options today, I don't think. But what follows there is set 1 and then an optional set 2. So set 1 means what do you want to translate, and set 2 is what do you want to translate it to. And I think if you leave off set 2, it'll just remove things. But let's try it on our test file just to see. All right, so here is our test file. And let's just see what happens. Let's try to remove all of the A's from it, the little A's. So the way translate wants to work is it wants you to feed it data. And usually I end up doing it by using the cat command, but then redirecting the cat command into the translate. And the set I'm going to use, which I'm going to mark with single quotes. So I'm just going to see what this does. So if I pipe that file contents through the translate command on the little a, what happens? It doesn't like it. Let's give it a second set, which is going to be nothing. So this isn't a space or anything, although we'll try a space in a second. Nope, string 2 must be non-empty. Well, it said set 2 was optional. Well, too bad. It is not. Let's put underscores then. Okay, so I'm going to use cat to get the contents of the test file. I'm going to pipe that into the translate command. And what I want to happen is I want to translate all the little a's to underscores. Okay, so that is what worked, although I'm still a little put off by the fact that it didn't just delete things. Whatever, we don't need it for our examples anyway, and I won't waste your time figuring that out. So we'll just do kind of straightforward translates. Okay, so what does translate do? It swaps out one letter for another letter. It will also do groupings. So in theory, let me put the underscore back. I should be able to say A, E, I, O, or U. So translate any of those characters to underscores. So now you can see all of the little A, E, I, O, U are out. I can also do the big A, E, I, O, U and replace all of the vowels, capital or lower. So I hope everyone notices what's happening here is anywhere in A, E, I, O, U little or A, E, I, O, U big occur, that one thing is replaced by the one underscore. Another thing you can do with it, let me clear. You can also do something like turn all the little a's into big A's. You can also make these sets kind of ordered like this. So every A will be replaced by an A and every little B will be replaced by a big B. So notice that bananas is now capitalized, and so also are all the A's. And then I could say, let's do all the vowels. So A, E, I, O, U. And then in the second grouping, you can instead of just saying replace every instance of all those with this one character, you can say little a goes with big A, little e goes with big E, little I goes with big I, little O goes with big O, little u goes with big U. And you can kind of line these sets up together. So now I'm saying basically capitalize all of the vowels. And I'm just going to check real quick to make sure that's true, and it is true. So you can also do ranges of things. So I can also say all of the A's through D's, let's say, replace with its partner in the grouping A through D capitalized. So take the little a's, make them big A's. Take the little b's that would be in this group, make them big B's that are in the other group. Little c's become big C's, little d's become big D's. And now everything A to D is being capitalized. So anyway, this is how I typically end up using it, is when I need things to be all uppercase or all lowercase. So you can quickly just say all of the A's to Z's make all caps. Or you can do it in reverse and say all of the capital A's to Z's become little A's to Z's. And then you can get your text. And the reason why you would use translate is because it eliminates these problems of lowercase and uppercase letters not being the same when it comes to things like sorting or uniquing on them or whatever. Okay, so translate is a cool kind of target one or more letters of input to be replaced by one or more letters of something different. Lowercase to uppercase, uppercase to lowercase, removing all the vowels I did and replacing them with underscores, that kind of stuff. Okay. Now we could even do something like this, but well, no, I won't do that. I'm starting to run out of time. Okay, so there's the translate command, and finally the cut command, which is the scariest looking one. But the cut command is awesome because it can take a file that has fields on every line, like our shopping file, and it can cut out parts of them and produce an output that has removed some parts of them. So we're going to experiment on the shopping file, and we'll just look through the options here, because one of them is going to be new and feel a little bit weird. So if you see the option -D, so use a particular delimiter instead of tab. So cut is going to look for your fields being separated by tabs in your file. My shopping file, our shopping file, is separated by spaces. So there's a good chance that cut won't know how to cut our shopping file unless we change the delimiter to be spaces. You'll see how to do that in just a second. And then notice also the -F option that basically says what fields do you want. You can ignore lines that don't contain your delimiters, so you could have other information in the file, but our big ones for this week are the -D option. How do we specify what separates the fields? And the -F option, what field specifically do we want? So we are going to use this command on shopping because it has fields. It has 3 fields per line. Every line has 3 fields. And cut can cut fields. Now cut tells me that it wants the fields to be separated by a tab, but my fields are separated by a space. So there's a good chance, let's just say that I want to cut out the first field, which would be the name of the item from the shopping. Let's see if it'll do that. Okay, it doesn't cut anything. And the reason is because it's looking for tab characters that tell it where one field ends and the next begins. But I don't use tab characters, I use space characters. So I'm going to edit this command, and I'm going to put in the delimiter option, and then in between single quotes, I'm going to put a space. So this dash, and you can say it like this if you want to. So what I'm saying here is my delimiter is a space, meaning what separates one field from the next is a single space. And then I want to cut out the first field. And notice I only get the first field, which is kind of cool. So let's add another field. So let's cut out the first and the second fields, which would be the name of the item and its category. So I'm going to keep the delimiter option in there because it's still the space that I'm using as a delimiter. Okay, so it's getting the first 2. Will it get the first one and the third one, leaving out the category field? It will. And then we can do kind of fun things with this probably. So maybe for our shopping trip, we want to print out our shopping list, but the categories aren't helpful to us. So we'll just cut out the first three fields, and then we'll pipe that to a sort. This one's trickier. You have to think about it, because when I run this command, what I'm piping into sort now only has two keys. It has the name and the number, because the cut has removed the middle key. So if I'm to pipe this into sort, what I want to sort by now is that numerical second key, which is what cut gives me as a second key, is the number. So the cut command is going to result in just these two fields. So when I do the sort on it, I have to be careful that I'm sorting what is now the second field, which is the number, numerically. And then I'll get just my item and its quantity sorted numerically, and I have dropped. So cut drops the category, and then sort takes the resultant list and sorts it numerically on what's left, which is the name and the number. So we sort on the second key, which is the number, which is also kind of fun to do. Okay, I am going to take a couple minutes and do one more example, just to talk about delimiters. So if I cat out my shopping list, I can see that I'm using spaces as a delimiter. So let's change that. Let's use something different as a delimiter. So I'm going to pipe that to the translate, and I'm going to translate the spaces. So that's single quote, space, single quote. I want to translate the spaces to be something else, like a comma, let's say. All right, so now instead of spaces, I'm getting commas between the fields. And now I can pipe that to the sort command. So you see how I've got all my stages kind of lining up here on the, as I compose this command, I'm doing each step. So I do the cat command to study the original file. And then I pipe that to the tr command to sort of see what happens if I translate the spaces to commas. And now I'm going to compose that into a cut command. The delimiter now is a comma because of that translate command in that sequence. The fields I want to keep are the first and the third fields. Pretty cool. I can also, by the way, pipe this to sort. Sort also needs to know if the delimiter is weird. So I can tell sort I'm using a delimiter. I want the second key sorted numerically. Oops. Oh, maybe it doesn't use, I'm going to have to use the man page on sort to see. How does it do a field delimiter? Oh, look, in the sort command, the field delimiter is actually a T, -T, field separator. So this can trip you up, but you just go back and you're like, oh, it wasn't a -D, it was a -T for the sort command. So it uses a different option for the field delimiter or separator, and now I've put all that together into this final output. So why did I do all that? Because it's interesting to me to do so, and it gives me a better sense of how to use pipes, how I can compose an output based on a series of commands being piped together with each other. And what you begin to realize in Linux or Unix environments is you can usually perform the work that you want to perform. There may be no single command that does exactly what you want, but usually there is some composition of commands that will get you the result that you want. And this is what I wanted, was this composition of commands. And if I want to at the end, by the way, let's just say for whatever reason I don't want the comma there anymore, well, I can retranslate I can retranslate the commas to be, I don't know, let's do asterisk instead. And I can just keep going and keep going and keep going and kind of get a fully customized, sorted, translated into the characters that I'm comfortable with output, starting from just that raw shopping file. So yeah, that's the stuff. I will now quickly, like in 3 minutes or so, do the VI command. So sorry I'm running over just a few minutes, but I wanted to give you an extended kind of look at piping and these different commands. They're intimidating looking when they're all piped together. So what I recommend you do is just kind of, you can use redirection to prepare intermediate files and then run just individual commands on the intermediate files if you want. Okay, so let's do, I'm going to open up shopping.txt. And then we'll just look at these new operations. So when you're in command mode, if you type a slash, you'll see the slash appear at the bottom left of the screen, similar to when you type a colon. But what the slash does is it lets you find things. So let's see if it will find eggs if I type eggs and press enter. Let me go to the top of the file. So for now, let's just start at the top of the file and we'll search for milk. So notice my cursor's at the top. So slash. Now the reason why is because the find goes downward. We'll add the find going upward soon. So anyway, I put the cursor at the top and now let's look for milk. Milk. And notice that it has found milk, and if I press enter, it'll take me to the line that has milk on it. So this slash, if I press it again and look for squash, it will find it. If I press enter, it'll take me to that line. To go up, you type a question mark. So if I know that if I feel like I need to search up from where I'm at, I can type a question mark. It didn't do it, but it should have. Well, let's not bother with it. GG to go to the first line. Slash, search for eggs, press enter to go to that line. I think that's all the exercise wants anyway. Okay, what else do we have? Deleting lines. So to delete a line, you put the cursor on the line. So let's get rid of the tomatoes. So put the cursor on the line. I'm going to type DD. And the line is deleted. You can undo the last thing you did with a U. So let's say, oops, I didn't want to delete tomatoes. I'm going to type U and undo that command. So DD to delete a line, undo if you make a mistake. Another thing you can do, so let's just say I want to make a copy of Cheerios. So to copy a line, you put the cursor on the line, you type YY, and then you go down. In this case, I'm just going to go down to the last line of the file. So YY has yanked or copied the line, and now if I do a P or paste, the line I copied will be pasted below the current line. So now if I P to paste, P key to paste, I'll get the copied Cheerios line on the next line below carrots. I should be able to U to undo that. Yeah, so I typed U to undo the yank as well. These are other ones that you just need to play around with to get a feel for. So slash to find stuff. So I will find the line that has bananas on it. I'll press enter. I will DD. Oh wait, no, I didn't want to delete the line. Undo. I meant to yank or copy the line. YY. And then if I just type a paste, a P key to paste right now, it'll paste the next line below my current line. So I get bananas. And then in theory, I can X, 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 and I will add a different fruit like, I don't know. I don't have any oranges in here. But let's say 4 oranges as well. Okay, so anyway, those are there. They're already labeled, but the trick is to open a file and use them. And don't worry if you mess up the file, you can undo, or in a pinch, of course, you can always command mode :Q exclamation point, and you can just drop all the changes that you made since the last time you saved it. So now all that junk that I just did is gone because I :Q exclamation point. Okay, so I find sort, unique, translate, and cut to be fun to play with. It feels kind of powerful to be able to manipulate data that way. So hopefully you find some interest in kind of playing around with those commands. And other than that, yeah, so please get it into your calendar that the midterm is coming in just a few weeks, a couple of weeks. So get that in your calendar and make sure that you leave yourself ample time for that in a few weeks, week of October 17th. Otherwise, I'll call it a day there. Thanks. There are a handful of you who managed to be here, so thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Hopefully, you find the interest that I do in these experiments in Linux and these commands. I just think it's neat, if nothing else. And hopefully you think at least that, if nothing else. So I will see you on Monday morning next week. Have a great week.